Man, we moving top shits like silver leaf and shit.
Oh, voila! It is your brother and host, John Mack, aka Mindbender, here to change my perspective and views up on y'all a little bit. I have some interesting commentary on a book that I've been reading and studying for the last 20 years. Yes, that would be the book of Genesis, and in the picture description right there before you, that would be Adam and Eve. From my personal opinion, this story gives and gives. I'm not here to just talk about Genesis. I'm here specifically to talk about Adam and Eve and the condition of man and woman today. I'm not very religious, but I am very spiritual, I would like to say. I think religion tends to deal more with their philosophy, doctrine, and dogma. And I personally deal with how I emotionally feel about these things. You know, that's strange and hypocritical coming from me because I'm a person that likes to preach. Keep your emotions out of things. But when reading the scripture, it kind of takes on a different animal and opens your third eye in a whole different way. No matter if you're Muslim or Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, it doesn't matter, so forth and so on. You know, the multitude of denominations of religions out there, they all have an origin story. And from my personal perspective and understanding, Adam and Eve is usually a cornerstone story in most religious folklore. Now, when I read this story, men specifically, I want you to understand who you are before you can ever get to a place of who you want to be. And women, I must make understanding for you as well within that same understanding. You see, because roles have been switched in these days and time, and I don't know about y'all out there, but it seems like there's something funny going on, and that there's an agenda to open people's minds to the wrong sorts of philosophy. What do I mean by philosophy and the wrong sorts? We are literally worried about the sexuality of a child. You know, once upon a time when I was growing up, they called that pedophilia. But now it's acceptable to talk about the sexual activity of children openly and discuss the plight in which they should handle it. Whether we should give our kids sex changes and so many other different agendas. And when we're talking about children, might I add to you, and anybody who's respectful and cares about humanity, you know, children are off limits. Leave them to their cartoons and their personal day-to-day happenings, but to burden them with any more stress than they're going to face when they become an adult is absolutely wicked and evil. And according to the Bible, if you want to talk about scripture, and I'm not talking about your average King James Version, I'm talking about Torah here. According to God, children ain't shit. I bet you didn't want to hear that. You see, I'll give you an instance of what God thinks about children. So let's start off with Genesis chapter 8, verse 21, where it goes on to say, and remember, this setting is in the days of Noah. So place your mind there before I read this. Chapter 8, verse 21, Genesis in the Torah, reads, "The Lord smelled a pleasing odor, and the Lord said to himself, Never again will I doom the earth because of man. Because of man, never will he doom it again." You see, at this point, the floods came, drowned out everybody, killed the multitudes. Okay, so that's the reason why that's being said. But let me continue. Never again will I doom the earth because of man. Since the devisings of man's mind are evil from his youth, nor will I ever again destroy every living being as I have done. Pause. Rewind. Nor will I ever again destroy every living being as I have done. Now, before I go any further, it was said that the devisings of man's mind are evil from his youth. Let that soak in. Once again, that is Genesis chapter 8, verse 21. I have one more for you. Now, before I get into this next segment, if you listen to me as an artist and you've been on my rap chat page where I have this music exclusively, I rap about cul-de-sac heads and bald people a lot. You know, it's a inside joke to those that understand that it's not really a joke. It's actually kind of cold, may I say, but who am I to question what the Father has in mind? So, I don't know how many of you out there are familiar with the prophet Elijah, but he's one of the most powerful prophets ever written about. His mindset, his tenacity, his humbleness, and his strength, all wrapped into one, was what God was looking for at the time that he ran into this dude right here. And there's this setting where he's real tired, he's hungry. Heard that story before. He's looking for something to eat. And story continues like this. 2 Kings. Okay, 2 Kings, chapter 2, verse 23. From there, he went up to Bethel. As he was going up the road, some little boys came out of the town and jeered at him, saying, "Go away, bald head. Go away, bald head." He turned around and looked at them and cursed them in the name of the Lord. Thereupon, 2 she-bears came out of the woods and mangled 42 of the children. He went from there to Mount Carmel, and from there he returned to Samaria. Now, before I go any further, I want you to contemplate on those two things right there. For a lot of people out there who call themselves Christians and often find themselves asking questions that should be taught prevalently in their institutions of religious learning. And if not, why not? You see, because you have to go to the New Testament sometimes to understand what the Old Testament is talking about, because it's a newer manuscript for a newer time. So you got to go to Corinthians chapter 11, verse 1, and hear the whole thing. And there's a reason for this exercise, which has way more to do with religion than it has to do with the psychology of paying attention. P. Imitate me, just as I also imitate Christ. Now I praise you, brethren, that you remember me in all things and keep the traditions just as I delivered them to you. But I want you to know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of woman is man, and the head of Christ is God. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered, dishonors his head. That right there gives you a solid and firm explanation of why, when those children taunted this man, Jackie Robinson. Let me commence. But every woman who prays or prophesies with her head uncovered dishonors her head, for that is one and the same as if her head were shaved. For if a woman is not covered, let her also be shorn. But if it is shameful for a woman to be shorn or shaved, let her be covered. For a man indeed ought not to cover his head, since he is the image and glory of God. But woman is the glory of man. For man is not from woman, but woman from man. Nor was the man created for the woman, but the woman for the man. For this reason, the woman ought to have a symbol of authority on her head because of the angels. Nevertheless, neither is a man independent of woman, nor woman independent of man in the Lord. For as women came from man, even so man also comes through woman. But all things are from God. Now, I want you to understand this perspective. It has been often said by me and many others that, one of the greatest gifts on this planet is free will. Free will. And then I got to thinking, who gave us free will? Who really gave us free will? From a kid to an adult We have a certain entitlement. You know, you can't make me be quiet. You can't tell me what to do. You can't control me. I got free will. That was one of the major reasons the Civil War took place, right? Allegedly. Slavery was going on in the South and human beings' free will had been taken from them. That's what we was told, right? That's the story we were given. As if it was some great gift to have our free will restored to us. Because we're all individuals.
You don't need me to treat you like a school child. You need me to open up your mind. Like the lotus flower was meant to be. But understand who gave you free will. And we'll commence on that when this segment continues. Peace and blessings.